Hello and welcome to another YouTube video. So for this one we're doing Project 2. Project 2's requirements are create a health pickup system, have health which is displayed in the UI, pick up and use a variety of weapons, use inverse kinematics to animate properly, and provide some targets that reappear after being killed. Okay, also implement a mechanic of your own related to health, pickups, or weapons. Sure. So, let me demonstrate right now. When we hop into game, I currently don't have a weapon, but I can press 1 to pull out this M4, or 2 to pull out this rocket launcher. And as you can see, they both grab the hands correctly, and when I move, they move with me as well. The rocket launcher doesn't do so well, but it does work, and especially if you sprint. When you sprint, it actually stops trying to follow the camera, so it actually looks a lot better. I could probably make it just a little bit better if I put some time into making IK hints, but for now I'm pretty happy with where it's at. I think I just bumped into my own rocket launcher with the physics there. That was a little strange. Alright, so for the UI, you can see that I have health up in the top corner. If I fire a rocket straight down, it causes me a little bit of damage. The rockets don't do that much because I do want to encourage rocket jumping using the physics. If you get hit directly with a rocket, like if I shoot that guy with a rocket, it'll do a lot more damage. But if the rocket just hits the ground and the explosion knocks you up, it doesn't do that much damage. For my extra mechanic, I did choose rocket jumping. So the idea is that you can run, you can shoot a rocket, and it'll launch you. For some reason, I think it's having issues with the physics, which it wasn't before. Did I bump my head? But yes, you can rocket jump, and it'll launch you up onto platforms and things like that. Hopefully I can smooth that out before Project 3, because it was working better before, and then I think I made some last minute changes that have screwed up the physics a little bit, so I'll work on that. But yes, you have two different weapons, the M4 and the rocket launcher, and you can fire those weapons around. As well, they have a nice little UI element that shows a picture of them, as well as how much ammo they have, as well as when they're reloading. The rocket actually fires out the rocket from the model, which is really cool, and then it comes back once you reload. As well, the character health has a nice slider and everything like that, which is good. You can also kill the enemies and they'll respawn, which was demonstrated earlier as well. Then we have these health pickups, which if I touch, they'll restore my health, and eventually they will come back. As well, the ammo pickup right here will actually just multiply your ammo by 5, so in this case it puts 5 rockets in the RPG at once. This is actually really beneficial specifically for the game that I want to make right now, because if I want to encourage rocket jumping, 5 rockets in one, I would obviously not want to reload that, but 5 rockets in one is going to allow for a lot more combination jumps with the rockets and everything like that, as long as you don't kill yourself. But I'm going to work on that as well, to basically flesh that out more in the future. And then I think that's everything to do with this sprint. So let's go into the code a little bit. I'll go over some of the more interesting stuff that I did. There was a ton of problems with this sprint and the way that I did a lot of things. And I've been moving stuff around a lot and adding a lot of different code. So there's, as you can see, a lot more scripts than there was last time. Things like the projectile, which is very simple. It's just like a projectile you'd see in any game, where essentially it just moves forward, and then once it collides with something, it determines what to do. So in this case, the projectiles have a damage variable, and when they collide with something, if it's a pawn, they'll actually do damage to that pawn. They also have a variable called explodes, which if you set to true, when it collides, it'll actually explode. I also have a weapon agent, which controls the weapons in general. So weapon agent can have any different type of weapon, and will actually be able to equip and unequip weapons and things like that. And then when it comes to weapons, you actually have a weapon script, and the weapon script will actually have all the different variables for it, like how much ammo it can contain, the ammo that's currently in the gun, whether it's reloading, all that stuff like that, if it's an automatic gun, everything like that. And then it actually has all the functions that you need, like fire, pull the trigger, release the trigger, reload, everything like that. And it just basically handles everything related to the guns. With the enemies, they're not really fully implemented yet. We basically just have a respawner for them, which is this. For the power-ups, it's similar. The power-ups are on a respawn timer. You can basically put in a power-up spawner, choose what type of power-up it spawns, and then it'll automatically respawn it over a timer. The power-ups are pretty simple. They're basically just going to float up and down on the ground. There's 2 types right now, heal and ammo, just using an enum. So they're very easy to implement more. And then what it does is basically just determined right here. You basically have a switch statement, and whichever type it is, you can just choose what it does. So example, the heal will just give the pawn negative 25 damage, which is adding 25 to the health. The reason specifically I have a function for take damage is because I want to update the UI as well. Which, if you noticed in the game, I actually gave the enemies billboard health bars. The reason is not that I'm trying to get ahead, it's because the game will actually error if they don't have a health bar to reference, because when it does the take damage, it is actually referencing a health bar no matter what, because I want to just have that health bar tied to their actual health. So when it does the take damage function, it also updates their health bar. And that works for me as well. When I take damage, it updates my health bar. So if I go into the power-up script, yeah, that's basically it. It's pretty simple in how it works. It just uses a switch statement to determine how the effect works. As for the character controller, this has probably undergone the most updates. Aside from just doing what it did before, there's a lot of physics stuff in here now. Oh no, this actually got moved. Right, so the physics stuff, if we go over to explosion, so what happens is you fire out a rocket, and the rocket is a projectile. When the projectile hits something, if explodes is checked, then it instantiates an explosion object at that point. The explosion object, on its start, is going to check within a certain area and look for pawns. And if it finds any pawns, it's going to do damage to them, a small amount of damage, the explosion. It will turn off their root motion, and it'll give them a certain amount of velocity away from the explosion. And so the reason that it has to turn off root motion is a lot of what I wanted to do in this game was with physics, to do rocket jumping. But the explosions, or rather the root motion prevents rigid body physics. So I have to disable root motion and then apply velocity, and only apply root motion once again once the character is grounded. So within the characters, within the pawns, I'm every frame checking the ground to see if I am grounded. There's a small raycast that goes down from just above where the feet are, because if it was at the feet level, then it would go through the object. So it starts just above feet level, checks downwards, and checks if they're grounded. If they are grounded, then it will make sure that their root motion is turned on as well. Inside the pawn, there's a few other changes, things like just doing the IK, which the weapons actually... If I go into the weapons real quick, for the M4, the M4 has a bunch of this stuff because it was some model I downloaded online, but they have IK points, right hand and left hand, as well as having a bullet point where the bullets come out. So if I open up the RPG as well, the RPG, you have a left hand, you have a right hand, you have a bullet point, and that's really nice. So we also, if I go back in here, one of the nice things is I tried to make this as dynamic as possible. So the pawns are as basically the principles that you encourage as much as possible in Unity. Things like making everything reusable. These pawns are very reusable for an AI. AI can take and use all the same functions that the player can. So things like move, take damage, die, will all happen for a bot as well. The reference here to the health bar UI, that's what they do when they take damage. They change the health bar UI, which is why it would error before they had an actual UI. But that's fixed now. As well, we have the all the functionality for the player controls. So this is a temporary one. This delete right here just takes a small amount of damage so I could test out the health bar. But then we have 1 and 2 for switching weapons. We also have a Q for unequip, and then we have a couple of other things like this right here, which is if the player's not sprinting, and there is a weapon equipped, it'll actually align that weapon using this align script to the camera's look, which is why if you're sprinting, it goes back into the animation rather than trying to face the camera. As well, you have the mouse left, which will pull the trigger. You have mouse left release, which will release the trigger. These are also going to work with E temporarily, because as I'm working in the editor, moving the mouse left and right, it constantly goes off the screen and it's very annoying, so I just use E. As well, R is the reload key, so that'll just trigger the reload. Yeah, that's pretty much everything that I need to talk about, I think. There's not much else. I have a face camera script, which is extremely simple. You basically can put that in a billboard UI, and it will face the camera at all times, which is what the health bars for the enemies do. And that's everything that I think I need to say.